The Minding Your Business podcast here on Friday, March the 1st, 2019 is brought to you by the Binge podcast network. The Binge is going very strong. That's www.onabinge.com. That's the move that you can make to check out all the great podcasters and podcast shows that we now have in our lineup. Thank you so much to my great business partner and friend, Mr. Dominic Lawson of the Startup Life podcast, as well as Owls LLC. Our lineup includes the Startup Life, like I just mentioned, this podcast, the Minding Your Business podcast, the Racially Motivated podcast, Let's Be Real, Nothing But Buckets, which is going strong. That's what they do. They deliver nothing but buckets. Great new podcast that we have that's a Binge original, as well as Just Blurredin that you need to check out as well, and Quotally. So we have a great lineup. If you're interested in podcasting, you're a new or you're an existing podcast and you want the support of our network, and we want to help you grow your audience as best that we know how. And it's great to have advocates like us, myself, Dominic, and the rest of the team to help build your audience for your podcast. You need to go to onabinge.com, communicate with us, info@onabinge.com. We love to hear from you and love to consider adding your show to the lineup. Of course, the podcast is brought to you by Brooks Brothers Consulting. Since 2013, we are an organizational development firm that is a value-added resource to businesses and banks looking to level up their sales, service, operations, and team engagement platforms for improved customer relationships and reduced attrition. www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com is how you can reach us, and you can reach me at ron@brooksbrothersconsulting.com. We're at episode number 84 here on the Minding Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Champ Ron, and you know what we do.
What we do here is go back.
Yes, indeed. I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast, coming to you on Friday, March the 1st, 2019. Hope you've had a phenomenal week on this week. I'm so glad to be here with you, and I'm so excited to introduce my guest here in just a minute. We're coming with our second episode of this week because I was traveling on last week in the great state of Michigan. Yes. The great state of Michigan, man. Had a great time, great meetings, as I mentioned on episode number 83 earlier this week. You can connect with the podcast. www.themybpodcast.com is where you can connect, learn more. You can connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at ChampRon, as where you can connect with me there. Would love to do so. You can email me if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, advertising on the podcast, and just being an overall support and sharing it. I'd love to hear from you. ron@themybpodcast.com. That's ron@themybpodcast.com is my email address. Hit me up. I love to be able to connect with you in all formats that we can do so, personally and professionally. Entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. And today's guest, I'm very excited about. Actually, his father-in-law, Chris Prefontaine, was on the podcast just a few weeks ago. And I'm so excited to have today's guest here on the Minding Your Business podcast, Mr. Zach Beach. Zach is a coach and mentor at Smart Real Estate Coach. They're in the Rhode Island area doing great things in the real estate market, highly respected, has closed well over 100 deals, buying and selling. And he's able to do that with a really good success formula that's been tried and proven here over the years. And I'm very excited to have him on. So, Zach, are you there?
I am here, Ron. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, Zach. And thank you so much for joining, man. I know you're busy. You've got a lot of deals to do. And so I was excited to be able to have you on. And our audience is excited to have you on. And so are you ready to deliver some value for minding your business?
Oh, I am very excited. Thanks for having me on. And yes, I hope to bring your audience a ton of value. And let's get started, my man.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's do it. we're born ready. So let's do it, man. Let's start with this, Zach. For people that may not be familiar with you and your background, how did you start out, and how did you get into real estate?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was actually I wasn't involved in real estate till about 3 years ago. I was actually a bartender and personal trainer by trade.
Okay.
Until I was about 25, and then I was burning the candle on both ends. So I went to my father-in-law Chris and I said, "Hey, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this real estate thing. I just know that it's a heck of a lot better than what I'm doing right now." As I was serving drinks at night, and then 5 o'clock in the morning, I was helping those exact same people work out. So it was kind of a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
So I went to Chris, and he was open to kind of expanding the business. So I came on over, knew absolutely nothing about real estate. I was green as green could be, and I just kind of took on my two family partners, Chris and my brother-in-law Nick, and we kind of hit the ground running. And I just kind of learned trial by fire. And then as kind of time went on, I established a comfort zone, and then just kind of took off from there. But those 100+ deals, I mean, I'll take some of the credit, but I have a phenomenal team around me and associates that I work with around the country, and hats off to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about this on the podcast all the time, Zach, about having the right team in place to help you, and that's what helps you grow and scale your business. And so MYB, definitely take that as a note that even when you get in and you may not have quite the experience and things like that, getting around the right winning team with the right attitude and right approach is definitely critical. So Zach, take us back to your very first deal. So you're coming out, you've been bartending, which I have great respect for people in that industry, in the bartending, for someone who enjoys a good drink. But so take us to your first deal. How does that come about? How do you do it? Were there things that you learned, or maybe you stumped your toe, or maybe it flew through and it with flying colors? So take us through your first deal.
Oh, I only wish that it was that it went through nice and easy with flying colors.
Right.
I was about 6.5 months in to the business, and the first deal that I was actually able to kind of do on my own, and we were doing deals together as a family, but the first one that I was able to establish right from the beginning and kind of take it through was a subject to deal. So just to keep everything super basic, a subject to deal, means that we're going to close on the property, we're going to take title, but there's still underlying debt on the house, so there's still a mortgage, and the mortgage is going to stay in the seller's name.
Okay.
Now, typically we would buy a house like that if somebody was selling the property for roughly, they were selling it for what they owe. So the market was only bearing basically for as much as they had on the property as far as a mortgage. So if they were to ever go sell the property on their own, but with a realtor, they probably were going to come out of pocket in order to sell it.
Okay.
So, a deal of ours that we took, the only way that you make money on these types of deals is if you're doing like a longer term deal, because what you're waiting for is the principal to pay down on the house and the market to continue to increase. That way you get a nice spread, and then over time, you then cash it out because you have a nice profit by then between the principal pay down and the increase in price. So I buy this house. We're up here in New England, so we have a lot of old homes. That house ended up having lead in the property. After we closed on it, I did not realize it at the time. I didn't do enough due diligence. Lesson was learned. We placed what we call a tenant buyer in the property because we sell, I would say 95% of our homes through a rent-to-own program. So somebody that's looking to become a homeowner, they just need time in order to become mortgage ready. So closed on it, put a buyer in the house. They end up having kids. The lady ended up doing her own self-lead test. Came back, we ended up doing our own lead test, found out that it tested positive for lead.
Oh, man.
$30,000 job later, we de-leaded the house.
Okay.
So first deal that I started out with, so on my first deal in, and I'm at negative $30,000.
Oh, man. Yeah, so that may scare a few people. So, how was that thought? There's that.
Yep, so, let me not scare everyone here. I just want to let you know that, over 100 deals, there's going to be some bumps in the road. So, some cool things to take away from this are, number one, what you should do is you should always establish some business credit lines when you start a business, because that $30,000 could knock somebody off, right? It could really take somebody out of business. But if you have the credit line set up in place, what you do is you would take that $30,000, you would continue to move that deal along, because there's some good news I'm going to establish in a couple minutes. And then once you get another deal done, you just start paying off the credit lines, right?
Sure.
So it's just really just establishing the business. Fast forward this deal now, about 3 years later, the market has appreciated, and there's about a $70,000 to $80,000 spread from us selling it right now in the open market. So overall, the entire deal ends up becoming like a positive $60K.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Yeah, excellent.
So we went into, you just kind of dealt with the hiccup. We took one on the chin. We then had our tenant buyer in place. We were working with them. They ended up defaulting. So what we ended up doing was bringing it back on the open market. Market appreciated. Principal went down. It's in a good area, and now there's easily a $60,000 profit that will walk away on the back end when it's officially sold.
Yep, excellent. And I want to get to the credit line piece in just a minute, too, with you, Zach, because that's very intriguing, and there are folks that are showing some interest in learning a little bit more about that. But so you have your first deal. Are your subsequent deals from there very similar, or do they all take a different shape and makeup and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so, throughout the last 3 years, I'll actually be coming up on 3 years full-time real estate and real estate consulting in April. So throughout those 3 years, we have many different deals. So we primarily focus on lease purchase deals, which is essentially rent to own, buying property with no money down, without using your own credit or begging investors for money. So that's primarily how we buy our properties. So they come in all shapes and forms. I'd say I love being in this form of real estate and in this niche, because no deal is the same, and it's always fun because you're always learning something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And our guest today is Zach Beach, coach and mentor with Smart Real Estate Coach. You can connect with him at Smart RE Coach. That's on Twitter, as well as on Facebook, Smart Real Estate Coach, and their website's www.smartrealestatecoach.com. So, Zach, for those that are, they're listening, and we've got people all across the gambit. We've got some folks listening to the podcast who have been in business for many years, some in real estate in various industries. Some are working a job. They're in a cubicle right now, or they're in an office. And some of those folks are trying to figure out, how in the heck do I get into real estate with no cash or no credit without using any of those things? Because that scares, unfortunately, a lot of people who, they may have had issues with student loans or with credit cards, things like that. They may be in the low 600s, and even below that. They may not have a ton of nest eggs saved up and that sort of thing. So how do those folks get involved in the industry?
Yeah, so I would always say that there's a couple ways to get involved in real estate, right? So first and foremost, and I know real estate can be a little scary at first, but as soon as you, just like anything else, as soon as you kind of take some action and you start figuring out exactly where your passion is, and then actually start, getting your feet wet, then just like anything else, you get used to it and you move forward. So what I always say to establish first and foremost is, find which niche that fits you, and it could be like we are in the terms business, and you can find a ton of free information on this too to make sure that that's your passion, that's your right niche. And you can just go on our website, smartrealestatecoach.com/webinar, and we have a great hour-long webinar, digs in real deep into and gives you a bunch of free nuggets here on how we buy and sell property, because we buy it a couple different ways. But essentially, buying and selling in our niche is really just buying and selling on a contract. So it's as long as you understand the contracts and you understand how to establish rapport and build out the correct way of speaking with a seller in order to figure out if, number one, you're a good fit for them to buy, and then number two, if their property is the best fit for you to buy. So once you establish that, then I would certainly go ahead and find a mentor. If you establish that whatever niche you're in, find a mentor and then follow them, and just make sure that your mentor is actually doing what they're saying they're doing, and they're actually in the trenches day in and day out working towards their goals. So that way you're not getting trained on information that's 10 years old.
Right.
And then once you establish a niche, find a mentor, and then you just got to take action, because there's too many people out there that are just buying products and buying products and buying products and never taking action. So it's super important that you take some action and that you get started on this journey, because that's the only way that you can eliminate that fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for those nuggets there, Zach. And so for those, I'll give you kind of a scenario or kind of a profile of, a lot of people that are looking to get into real estate. So if you're sitting here, Zach, and let's just say you've got a 580 credit score, you've got, $1,000 in your checking account, maybe another $1,000 to $2,000 in your savings account, and you're hearing about, these ways that you can buy on terms. So these are folks that may have a struggle sometimes getting a loan to buy a property, and but they're maybe good at identifying opportunity. And for instance, here in Memphis, we've got a ton of opportunity that's really inexpensive still. Because there's a lot of distressed properties, unfortunately, but there's a huge rental market here. And so, what would you say to that guy or girl that's, in that profile, say, 580 credit score, 2 to, $5,000 to their name. They may be sometimes living check to check on their job, or maybe they're in a startup business. And so when they hear kind of buying on terms, and that kind of excites them, because they may not have 50 to 100 grand to go buy a property, and like I mentioned, they may struggle to get a loan or even a mortgage, at a 580 score. So, how can that person with that profile kind of get in, with buying on terms?
Yeah, no, I love it. So, number one, even if you had $50,000 or $100,000 to your name, I still don't recommend you go dump it into one property anyway. So, yeah, I love talking to these folks. So your credit score, the way we buy has nothing to do with you personally, as I don't want you ever signing personally your name on any property. So I would just establish an LLC. I think it's like a couple $100.
Sure.
And you would only be signing any property with your business name.
Yeah, exactly.
I would never want you to sign personally. So credit score doesn't matter. That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, is a lot of those things that other people care about, kind of go out the window. So credit score doesn't matter to me, even though I highly recommend you work on your credit if that's the case. And we have some good connections if you certainly want those. $2,000 to $5,000 to your name, again, completely okay. Because what I want you to do is, and you can certainly go through our program if you choose, but what I want you to do is find some deals.
Sure.
And find those leads from for sale by owners, expired listings for rent by owners. That's primarily where we find all of our deals. And our deals start initially from just a conversation on the phone. So it's just getting used to talking to sellers. And then once you speak with those sellers, you then can establish a contract. And then once you have a contract and you sign with those sellers, then you're able to sell it on the way we sell it is through our rent-to-own program. So you didn't hear me tell that I put down any money with the seller, which we typically put a little money down. So it doesn't matter how much money you have in your back pocket. Get the contract tied up, go ahead and sell it to what we call a rent-to-own market, which is about 82% of the market that needs time in order to become mortgage ready.
Sure.
And then once you collect a non-refundable deposit, now you have money up front, and then you're going to create some spread throughout the time frame as well. So we got 3 paydays. So payday number 1 is when you collect a non-refundable deposit from your tenant buyer. Payday number 2 is going to be the spread between what you have to pay if there's a mortgage, any expenses on the house, and what you can collect.
Sure.
And then payday number 3 will be when the tenant buyer cashes you out.
Exactly.
So all 3 of those paydays, and on average we get roughly $75,000 per house, or all 3 paydays. Now everyone's experience might be different, but
sure.
that's what we get up here in Southern New England. So just based on those 3 things that you told me, I didn't mention that you had to have good credit.
Yeah.
You don't have to have any money, because as soon as you collect that non-refundable deposit, you know, if you're smart and this is your first time doing it, then I would put away like half the money in your business account just in case anything were to happen, and then you got half profit, and you kind of move that thing forward, and now you got more than $2,000 to $5,000 to your name.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. And MYB's familiar with kind of my real estate background and sharing. I share a lot here, Zach, on a lot of the kind of idiot moves that I made in the past.
We've made plenty of them.
Yeah, so I've made bonehead mistakes in there that I share with MYB, as well as the great things that I've been able to do and been fortunate, like you mentioned, having a great team as part of that. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that helps a lot of people, Zach, who may be fits for that particular profile, who want to get involved. And so, let me ask you this: how do you incorporate social media into your real estate business? I know there's a ton of people on there. A lot of people are doing a lot of different things. So what's kind of your method to your madness on social media to help drive your business?
Yeah, I use social media as it's a platform for me to educate buyers and sellers. It really allows us to answer commonly asked questions, kind of build some rapport, without, maybe somebody's thinking about selling their house. Maybe they're a little skittish about selling their property on owner financing or through a rent to own, and they just need more comfort. So me and my brother-in-law, we put out at least 1 video a week from our local buying and selling entity, just so that when sellers, that way when we speak to buyers and sellers, we just say, hey, go ahead on our social media. You can take a look. We answer a bunch of questions. So it's more of an education process, because our entire business model is education. As most sellers don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I want to sell my property on a lease purchase, or I want to own or finance, my house. They think, I want to go get a realtor and I want to sell it. Because that's what, society knows.
Right.
Especially on a basis.
Exactly.
So when we establish a relationship, it's really an education process in order to make sure that they understand exactly how we're buying, and then when we get to that end result is, the next step is to get the deal done. So I'm just constantly trying to put out more information for education, and I think it establishes a great rapport with potential clients in the future as well.
Yep, excellent, absolutely. And I know you're doing that too. You have a book coming out, The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, 25 leading experts reveal their real estate secrets, that I know you're really excited about, and the rest of us are excited about that as well. And I know that's, I believe, your second book, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Zach?
It'd be my first book. It would be my father-in-law Chris's second book.
Okay, excellent.
So we want to also, towards the end of the show, I'd love to give away our Amazon best-selling book that our family wrote before, but Chris's name's on it. So I'd be more than happy to give that away to you guys as well.
Yeah, excellent. So with the new book that's coming out, kind of, what's kind of the premise for it, and what can readers expect from it?
Yeah, so it's a bunch of leading experts. We got like Joe Fairless. We got ourselves. We got a bunch of the top real estate investors from around the country and in Canada, I believe. And what to expect is basically everyone's niche in how to establish, so we have a bunch of different niches in there. So some key points, some key takeaways from, everyone's experiences to help out people, kind of get established in real estate or to take their real estate game to the next level. And then also just as the real estate market is constantly evolving, we mentioned, some cool new, ways in order to accomplish your goals in real estate. So hence the new rules.
Yeah, excellent. I love it, man. I definitely love it, and looking forward to getting my copy. And I encourage MYB here to, once that comes out, I want to make sure to share it with our audience and have them go and purchase the book. And MYB, don't just purchase the book to say you have it, read it, right? And apply the information so that you just become better and smarter and more intelligent. And I always encourage our listeners, is part of the reason we do best practices on here is that you can take them, absorb them, and then learn from those of us that have already been out there to make some of the mistakes and experience some of the joys, so that you can get more to the joy side and avoid some the mistake side. So there's no need in everybody repeating everybody else's mistakes. And so I definitely appreciate you sharing that as a platform, Zach. And so, as we, start to kind of wrap up, Zach, what are some, maybe 2 or 3 really good best practices? We've talked about those that may be getting into real estate for the first time. Maybe they've been in for some time and, haven't seen it go as well as they like for it to go. So what are kind of, if you're sitting down with somebody, you're just sharing kind of your top best practices, what would those be?
So this isn't not even just necessarily real estate specific, but I like to start all of my days with a meditation or a workout. I think it just establishes my day. It allows me to kind of get my blood flowing, and that way by the time I get to the office, I'm ready to rock and roll, especially on those workout days. Meditation days are more for me to cool my head and kind of gather my thoughts, especially if I got a big project. So I would say start your day with some sort of meditation and or exercise. And then as soon as I get into the office, I like to do the hard things first. Super important. Maybe it's a seller that you don't necessarily want to speak to because, maybe they're rough on the phone, or let's say it's a project that you need to establish and it's really going to take a heck of a lot of brain power. Or maybe it's even something as simple as like you're dealing with a complaint from one of your buyers and they've been calling and blowing up your phone and you've just been kind of holding off, or
right.
talking to the bank or something. So do the hard things first. That way you get it out of the way, and then your mind can certainly get a little more creative. And then the other one brings me to the creative side. It's I would just always leave time in your schedule for either creating additional future revenue, or just like in a creative mindset in order to constantly be building towards the future. Because I think we all get caught up in the day-to-day grind, and we tend to forget about like why we're actually doing this. So
right.
If you have future projects, things that are going to really build your business to the next level, especially if you're the owner of the business, very important that you set aside time in order to work on future projects and or build your business.
Yep, absolutely. I think those are all great best practices, and you're exactly right, man. They transcend real estate, and that's more for people in business or in their professional and even their personal lives, as well, as you tied in, working out, which is, extremely important to have a healthy body and a healthy mind as you're in business, so that you can be healthy enough and have the right mindset to be able to accomplish and think critically through your processes and your goals and things like that. And then I also love, looking towards the future. And sometimes business owners get caught in, not really leading the business. They're just kind of doing day-to-day tasks. And part of scaling your business is to be able to think long-term and think critically towards those long-term goals. and be making progress towards those. So great stuff, Zach. Let me end with this last question. Then we want to get your contact information and everything towards the audience. But I always like to, ask business owners this, Zach, take us to, a challenge day, one of those days where, you almost said, man, forget this, man, F this. I'm going to go back and, I'm a bartender, or I'm going to go back and do something else. Because I think, business owners tend to have that day, and a lot of people run into that obstacle. And I think there's something innate within entrepreneurs that, allows them to continue to grind even after that tough time, even after that door gets slammed in your face. People don't like your post, they don't share it, whatever it is. Take us to that day if you've had that day, and, what allowed you to continue going, continue to fight, continue to push as you have, even after you have that setback or that hardship.
Yeah, I'd love to say that day never happened, but I think it's happened to me many times over, say, the last 3 years. And sometimes it's just, being the real estate entrepreneur and working with the family business and constantly growing multiple businesses. Sometimes you just want to go back to the simplicity of, all I have to do is show up and bartend for the night, and then the rest of the day, when I get out of work, I don't think about work ever again until I'm back there.
Right.
I look at some people and they're working normal jobs, and you can be envious sometimes as a real or as an entrepreneur in general. You're like, they just take the weekend off. Like, that's what they do. They don't think about work until Monday.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't have a specific day that I can call and say Tuesday, March 1st was the day that it happened. But it's happened to me quite a few times when you just have one of those long, frustrating days, and you're really just juggling a million things, and you just come to the conclusion hey, I could just stop. I could just walk away, and I can just go bartend for a night, and then just start establishing it that way. So, what really keeps me going, though, all joking aside, is I'm a very visionary person, and when I have a goal set in my mind, there's no way I'm stopping.
Yes.
It's not over till it's over, and then as soon as I reach that goal, then maybe I'll decide to create something new after that. But for now, I'm pretty locked in. So even if I have a terrible day, I stay pretty dialed in after maybe a nice night with the family, hang out with my son and my wife, and just regather my thoughts, let out the emotions, and kind of move on from there. Journal a little bit, and then reestablish what my why is, and keep going.
Yep, absolutely. And I love that about, just entrepreneurship and business ownership, Zach. And you hit the nail on the head, man. And I've had those days, surely, over time that, when you reach that, pinnacle of, a tough day, a tough week, a tough month, a tough quarter, or hell, even a tough year, that you're able to, I think entrepreneurs are kind of develop this innate kind of tenacity around, focus on their goals, and surrounding themselves with the right kind of people, and people that can pour into them. And I hear that in your voice, man, in terms of, you may not have had that specific day, but you've certainly had those times that you acknowledge. And I think everybody that's listening to this podcast can relate to having those tough days, personally and professionally, that can impede and make you say, nah, you know what, man, I'm going to go back and do what I was doing. And, having that tenacity and, to kind of pick yourself up, go back to your why and keep trucking along, understanding that, you only lock in your losses, like any investment, once you get out of the game. And so your ability to stay in it really speaks to, your character and, how you're able to progress. And so I love that, because that always helps people to be able to relate to entrepreneurs, particularly those that aren't entrepreneurs or are just getting started. So excellent stuff, man.
Yeah.
My guest today is Zach Beach, again, coach and mentor at Smart Real Estate Coach. He's the author or co-author of The New Rules of Real Estate Investing. 25 leading experts reveal their real estate secrets that'll be coming out soon. And you mentioned having kind of a nice little opportunity for Minding Your Business audience as far as with the previous book. So I'd like for you to share that, Zach, if you can.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to give your audience our Amazon best-selling book, Real Estate on Your Terms. Now you can read up on it this month, and then you'll get our new book next month, and you'll really be dialed into our niche and into our family. So, I want to give it to you guys for free because
awesome.
This isn't I'm going to make you pay shipping or handling. It's absolutely free. There's no tricks, no nothing like that. So head to this link. It's free, SRECbook.com. That is free, smartrealestatecoachbook.com. Again, free, SRECbook.com. All you got to do is put in your address. We'll ship it out on us. Enjoy the book. And then also that'll kind of prompt you through the list of, you can hit up our free webinar as well. As Ron mentioned, you can get us on social media. We put out a ton of free content also on YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/smartrealestatecoach, as we give tons and tons of free content because we're just out here trying to help real estate entrepreneurs like yourselves grow, scale their businesses, and develop the life of their dreams.
Yep, excellent. Zach, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you taking time out. I know, you've got deals flowing, and it's a busy Friday and first of the month and all that type of thing. But I really appreciate you taking time to spend with myself and Minding Your Business Nation here on the Minding Your Business podcast. Best wishes to you personally and professionally, my man. If any of us or myself can be a resource to what you're doing from here in Memphis, we love to be able to remain connected. And for anybody in Minding Your Business Nation that's up in the kind of Rhode Island area, I'd love for you to connect with Zach. I mentioned the podcast, and he definitely comes off as someone that's knowledgeable, that can be on your team and really help you deliver the results you're looking for. So, Zach, thanks again, my man, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it. Nothing more I'd rather do.
Yep, excellent, man. Thanks so much, Zach. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. So that was Zach Beach, everybody, coach and mentor at Smart Real Estate Coach. We had his father-in-law, Chris Prefontaine, who's one of his business partners, was on one of the previous episodes. And both of those brothers, man, are delivering great content. They're very easy to work with, even though they're in the Rhode Island area. They work obviously nationwide. So I invite you to connect with them. It's great to have those kind of people on your team that can deliver content, pour into you, and help keep you motivated. And as Zach mentioned, your situation is almost really irrelevant. So if you've had struggles with credit, you've got struggles with income, you've had struggles with time, maybe you're balancing family. Maybe you're like me. I've got 3 young daughters and a wife. Maybe you're balancing that. Maybe you got a husband and kids. You're having to deal with parents who are aging, or other family members. You got a lot of things that you're juggling, but you're interested in real estate. Having the right people around you is critical. So I invite you to do that. Don't forget about the freebie for the free book. Again, that's good knowledge to have. That's free, FREE, Smart Real Estate Coach. I think it's SREC.com. So free, SREC.com. It's going to be in the show notes. I'm not sure if I'm butchering that or not. But you can also go to www.smartrealestatecoach.com. And you can get to that link as well for the book, and then have an opportunity to purchase the new book that when it comes out a little later this spring. So thank you again to Zach Beach for being a guest here on episode number 84 of the Minding Your Business podcast. Now let's jump right into Ron's rundown. Let's do that. All right. Good people. Ron's rundown. Let's bring that. Listen, from this week, and this is a best practice that came from something that I think everybody was able to see in some form or fashion, which is former President Donald Trump's attorney, one Mr. Michael Cohen, who testified before the House Oversight Committee just on yesterday, on Thursday, February the 28th, which was very interesting. He testified before the committee, and this is after he pleaded guilty last year to campaign finance violations and tax evasion, as well as lying to Congress in 2017. So he's had a rough go of it, Michael Cohen, and he's involved in the Mueller investigation and all that kind of thing with the president. And of course, Mr. Cohen in May of this year will begin a 3-year prison sentence as a result of those indiscretions. And even just today, President Donald Trump was on Twitter with a series of tweets aimed at Michael Cohen and questioning his integrity and questioning him, essentially lying and things like that. And so here's kind of the deal that I want you to take away with as a business owner, as an entrepreneur from this. And here on the podcast, that's what we do. We like to take these type of trending topics and extract from it what the lesson is, right? So it's not really about how we all feel about President Donald Trump or Michael Cohen or anything like that, but what can we learn from this? All right, so in my opinion, with Michael Cohen, obviously every client and all money is not good money. Right? So when someone who's had a decorated past like President Donald Trump, that has a lot of documented indiscretions and things like that, personally and professionally, that's something you got to be careful with, even though they may come with big dollars. So some customers come with a lot of prestige, they may come with a lot of fanfare, and they sure as hell may come with a whole lot of money. And you still need to evaluate that client and that customer to see if it's a good fit. Because, one thing you don't want to end up with is doing 3-year prison bids for customers and having the wrong customer. So I encourage you that as you're going through your business ownership walk, your entrepreneurship walk, and you look at these type of things, look for the lesson. And the lesson from Michael Cohen is you've got to be careful with your own integrity, and like we were talking about with Zach earlier, the kind of people that you affiliate with and associate yourself with, because you could be affiliated or associated with someone or someones that can hurt you personally and professionally, and put you in a situation where you're before the House Oversight Committee, which could represent the actual House Oversight Committee. It could represent people in your town, your customer base, your vendors, your family, your friends, your employees, your coworkers, whatever it may be. And so always be leery of that. Be leery of the type of people that you do business with. Again, all money is not good money. Just because someone flashes and they want your product or service and they've got big dollars and they're talking fast and they want to move quick. And I know how it is. You've got bills to pay. You got plans and goals and aspirations for the business, and you want to take it to the next level, right? Be careful about the type of people you do business with. Business owners think a little different than your typical employee. And this is not to be derogatory or anything towards employment, but a business owner has to look at things from a slightly different prism, through a different prism. And that prism is, you've got to look at what's sustainable and does a customer fit your culture. Yes, it's about making money and that sort of thing, and you want to be profitable and you want to be able to scale your business. But at the same time, you don't want to be testifying before the House Oversight Committee because you done lied to Congress and you done been involved in campaign finance violations that are documented and tax evasion. You don't want to be that guy or that girl, right? So I plead to you to take this as a lesson. Aspiring business owner, if you've been in business for 500 years, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, who you associate with and your reputation is all you have. And you don't want to be, again, in a position where a customer, a vendor, an employee, anybody puts you in a compromised position, because I tell you, 3 years prison bids, and who knows how long of that term he actually serves. But you don't want to wear an orange jumpsuit anywhere around here at any time as a result of bad associations or affiliations. So take that for how you want to take it, but that's just some free game from Champ Ron to you, that watch who you affiliate with, MYB. All right, so that brings us to the end of this particular podcast. We're doing things a little bit different. We're going to show this actually as a Facebook watch party, so you can see it on my personal page as well as the Minding Your Business Podcast Facebook page. So be sure to connect with me there so you can see the presentation and showing of this particular podcast. Thank you for everybody that's on Facebook that is listening to it now. And for those on Spreaker.com, thank you to the live audience. Thank you again to our guest, Zach Beach, coach and mentor at Smart Real Estate Coach. Make sure that you connect with him. Get the book, the freebie that he's got. If you're interested in advertising on this podcast, wouldn't it be great for me to mention your business here on this podcast, where we've got nearly 35,000 downloads here in a little over a year and a half, and continue to grow it, get you connected with other podcast shows that you could advertise on the Binge podcast network. Wouldn't that be cool? I think it would be cool. Or to even play your commercial during this particular podcast. And so you need to reach out to me, Ron at the MYB podcast. So Ron at THEMYB as in boy podcast.com. That's where you need to reach out to me. Got several great options for you that's very affordable, but I'm going to tell you, podcasting is it. It's continuing to grow, and you want to get in on the front end if you want to connect to your target audience that has buying power, that's looking for your product or service, and that I'm going to work to get people connected to what you do. That's just the way it works, and that's just the way that I am. So get with me on that. Subscribe, listen, share the podcast. It's across all the different podcast networks: Apple Podcasts, Google, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and the such. So be sure to do that. We definitely appreciate all your support. We're going to continue to come with more great content, more guests, more subject matter topics and best practices from me. And we're going to continue to make 2019 phenomenal. We got daylight savings time coming. Y'all go see the sun a lot more. Hopefully people feel better. Here in Memphis, it's been raining like hell and dreary. And it looks like Dagobah from The Empire Strikes Back with Master Yoda. Remember when Luke Skywalker first meets Master Yoda on that planet where it's nothing but swampland and just rains and misty and humid every day? That's how Memphis has been looking. So I was like, hell, I'm looking around my corner seeing if I see Master Yoda pop up on me. Teach me some of them Jedi mind tricks too. But anyway, listen, have a great weekend. Be great at what you do. Be great for your family and friends. Be great for your community. If I can be a resource, reach out to me. I love to be able to help. This is episode number 84 in the books of the Minding Your Business podcast. Entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. Go be great.
What we do here is go back.